Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Links London and the Links London Global Headquarters. Today, I thought I'd share with you a little behind the scenes and the restoration process of a pair of vintage Links of London Concord cufflinks. These are sterling silver and they have been hallmarked so we can date them. Now, these appear to be Sheffield 1995, and most of the pieces I've seen from Links of London so far were hallmarked in Edinburgh. This is the first set that I've seen with Sheffield hallmarks for some reason, and yeah, 1995, so quite early on. Concord on the back. They look in well loved condition. They're actually not in very bad. Cufflinks generally aren't in the kind of worn condition that jewellery is. However, these look like they've potentially been, most of the marks on these were probably done in storage. They probably marked, the planes probably marked the back of the other and vice versa, as opposed to actually marks from wear. So they need a good clean and polish. I don't want to remove too much metal. Metal is money when you're working with precious metals, but there is some. I want to get a mirror finish on these ovals with the Concord branding on. So I'm not sure. I think I might quickly put those in the ceramic, which will clean up the backs nicely. We'll get a machine polish on them, ceramic mix shot barrel polisher, and that will clean up the chains nicely. And then I will use a polishing mop to get a mirror finish on the back and get a nice bright finish on those sterling silver Concords. So let's get cracking. Okay, our cufflinks, Concord cufflinks, have been in our barrel for over an hour now. They weren't alone, I put some other pieces in there with them. And I've tipped out the ceramic medium into this old baking tray so we can sift through it and locate our cufflinks, because this ceramic media is abrasive and it gives the silver a very dull matte finish from cutting the surface. Almost the same colour as the ceramic itself. It makes pieces very difficult to find rummaging around the barrel, so tip it out, locate them quickly. Now, the ceramic is cutting. It's got a cutting compound in there, so it removes metal and in the process gives a very dull matte finish, and has hopefully removed most of the marks were put in by our pre-polishing, and they're looking good. The next stage, however, this ceramic is cutting and removes marks, small marks. However, metal's money, so you don't want to leave things in here too long, because the more metal you're removing, the more value you're removing from the piece. So the next step is the beginning of the polishing process, and I'm going to use the barrel again, but with stainless steel mixed shot. So a mixture of steel pins, balls, and sort of satellite shaped pieces. And they're not cutting. That's metal rubbing against metal. The steel will rub against the silver, and that polishes it. and it's a centuries old process. It would have traditionally been done by hand. Now we can do it by machine. So we'll leave them in there for a few hours, and what the steel pins and balls will do is they'll get into all the little areas, especially the detail of this Concorde plane, and into the inside of the links on the chain, and it does a reasonably good job at a polished finish. Some manufacturers will, that's all they'll do. They'll get to this stage, the final barrel polish, the polishing, and then call it a day. Call it stock. Whereas we'll get the next stage done, the machine polishing, and then we'll hand finish as well. So we'll get a much finer finish with the polishing mops. But the key point is the machine polishing is a good. It's not good enough, but it's not good enough for our customers, but it's good. So let's get these back in the barrel, but with steel shot. Okay, our cufflinks have spent a little bit over an hour in the mixed shot barreling, and they've come up pretty well. It's turned what was a dull matte finish into a bright satin finish. It's actually quite, if I left these for a few more hours, they'd be a bit brighter, a bit closer to a polished finish. And it's actually, this bright satin finish is actually quite a good finish for cufflinks, because it's bright. It's nowhere near mirror finish, but it's bright enough to appear almost polished in a few more hours, that is. But you don't get, because it's satin, a satin finish, you don't get finger marks on them. So it's not really great for jewellery, apart from maybe vintage and retro, just to brighten things up. But it's certainly good enough for vintage and retro cufflinks. But we're gonna now go to the polishing machine. Well, I say now, it's getting dark and it's getting late, so for me it'll be tomorrow, for you and it'll be in a moment's time. We'll now go onto the polishing machine, hand polish these, and get a really fine finish on both the ovals and the Concords. Okay, let's take a closer look at our polished, refurbished Concord cufflinks. They look really good. They look very good for, what did I say these were, 1995? Over 30 years old now, these cufflinks. What I'll do with these, I'll put them in our, we've got a light box for product photography because these are going to go in the Links London store. So I'll take some pictures now and give you a close-up of the polished, refurbished Links of London Concord cufflinks, and then you'll get a clear idea of how they look now compared to how they looked before. They've come up really well. They were in good condition to begin with, and they're now in better condition, just polished. They really just needed a polish. There were some marks on the ovals of these, and I think that was, rather than from actual wear, that was probably from storage, and the planes marking one marking the other in storage. That's all that was from. So just light scuffing, which was very easy to remove, and obviously just age-related tarnishing. But yeah, for a 30-year-old pair of cufflinks, these now look, I want to say, good as new. They probably do look good as new. They were definitely, you could see the orange peel from the castings. So they were probably machine finished to begin with, not hand polished. So they may even look better than they did when they were brand new. I'm not sure how these were retailed. I've seen them available online. Now, we don't have the original packaging for these. They came to us without the original packaging, but they came, it appears, from the ones that are for sale, or were for sale. Certainly there were pictures of sold versions that came in British Airways and Concord branded packaging, not Links of London packaging. So I'm gonna guess that these were sold by British Airways, either on board Concord or airports, maybe online. 1995, it was quite early on for online shopping, so yeah, you may have actually had to go. You may have actually had to go and get on board a Concord to buy a pair of these. The backs could do with a little bit more polishing. Maybe I'll do that with a cloth. But generally speaking, for a 30-year-old pair of cufflinks, these now look phenomenal, and they'll make a great addition to aviation fans, and certainly Concord fans' cufflink collections. So what I think these would also look good as, we could. I was thinking this when I was polishing them. I could actually. I'm not going to do it with this pair, but if we got another pair, maybe if I got a pair that was damaged in some way, certainly the backs, I could actually solder that chain, the cufflink chain, so it was solid. And these would actually make quite a cool sort of desk ornament, a little model, because I could solder that chain so it was solid, and these were actually upright, either with the Concord taking. I think it landed like that as well, didn't it? Taking I think that's both takeoff and landing position. So, and yeah, the actual back of the cufflink would work like a stand. So I could, or I suppose if I somehow end up with an odd cufflink, that would be a good use for an odd cufflink, turning it into a model. I suppose if any other sort of similar designs come up, as that is something that does arrive at times, odd earrings and odd cufflinks. But yeah, generally speaking, I'm waffling now. They've come up really well, and I hope you enjoyed this little look behind the scenes at refurbishing cufflinks here at Links London. So for these really just needed a good professional clean and polish. Put them in ceramic chips, which is cutting, which removes a little bit of metal, but mainly gives you a flat, even surface. Gets into all the detailed areas that it's hard to get into with other forms of polishing. but the ceramics give a quite flat, dull, matte finish. It's not polishing. The next stage for these was mixed shot, stainless steel mixed shot, and that does start the polishing process. That's a burnishing process, so metal rubbing against metal. And again, because of the shape of the little pins and balls, it gets into all the recesses and hard to reach areas, especially on the cufflink chains, and starts the polishing process. But it's by no means a mirror finish. The machine finish is slightly satin, I would say. But it's good. Some mass-produced pieces, that's where they finish, and so it is, for some manufacturers, a good enough finish. And certainly for mass-produced and mass-finished pieces, it is a acceptable bright finish. But we wanted a better finish, so we've then gone on to the polishing machine, and I've polished these with I actually used a soft mop, but I used a polish called Hyphen, which is actually a polish originally designed for stainless steel, but it works phenomenally well on sterling silver, and it's not only quicker, I think it gives a slightly brighter finish on silver than what would be considered more traditional and finer polishes like Jeweler's Rouge. But yeah, they've come up really well using that. So now I'm going to photograph these and get them in the store. I have to find some packaging for them as well, because we don't have the original Concorde or British Airways packaging. I'm going to find some vintage Links of London packaging to put those in. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this little look behind the scenes at cufflink restoration. I'll see you guys in the next one. Toodles.